Welcome to the second MassAve4 Cycling Safety Ordinance informational project video. This video will focus on the segments of Massachusetts Avenue between Dudley Street and Beech Street, as well as Roseland Street to Waterhouse Street. Refer to the project website to view the first introductory video if you missed it. The MassAve4 project consists of 4 segments of Massachusetts Avenue where installing separated bike lanes is challenging due to the complicating factors such as major bus stops or overhead wires that power trolley buses. This video will share where we are in the process of evaluating 2 of these 4 segments, as well as the overall project timeline in relation to the city's cycling safety ordinance. We will also review the feedback that was gathered during the project's public engagements events in November of 2021. Next, we will cover the range of design possibilities from quick build to full reconstruction, including feasibility considerations for options under each potential approach. Finally, we will share opportunities for you to provide your thoughts about these portions of MassAve with the project team, either in person or online. There are several key principles that shape all of the work we do in the City of Cambridge, as outlined and implemented through many policies and guiding documents. We design infrastructure for people of all ages and abilities, including those who may not have access to a car. We also focus on moving people and goods rather than individual vehicles. This may mean priority measures for high-capacity vehicles, such as buses, as well as accommodation for larger vehicles that carry commercial items. All of these policies work together to help Cambridge lead the way toward a safer and more sustainable future. Separated bike lanes, or bike lanes that are physically separated from vehicular traffic using flex posts or raised curbs, offer several safety and functionality benefits. Separated bike lanes reduce conflicts and crashes between vehicles and cyclists and increase comfort for all users. This allows more people of all ages and abilities to choose cycling as their method of transportation, supporting the city's goals for safety and sustainability. The city's cycling safety ordinance requires the implementation of separated bike lanes along the entire MassAve corridor. For the 4 segments of MassAve with additional challenges, called the MassAve4, the city must present an analysis and obtain approval from the City Council on a construction timeline for sections where there are complicating factors such as overhead bus wires. This must occur by April 30th of 2022. In sections where quick build is recommended, separated bike lanes must be installed by April 30th of 2023. If approval is not granted by the City Council for an extended timeline for sections recommended for construction, these sections must also be installed as quick build by April 30th of 2024. Separated bike lanes have been installed on several sections of MassAve, and several of the remaining segments are currently in the design stage, including Porter Square. This study is focused on the sections of MassAve that include overhead wires for buses and require special consideration for emergency access. These segments include MassAve between Dudley Street and Beech Street, Roseland Street to Waterhouse Street. Additional consideration is also needed at 2 busy bus stop locations near Harvard Square, which are being reviewed through a parallel process. MBTA's overhead wires power electric trolley buses along these segments of MassAve, allowing these buses to access the MBTA storage garage located at Dudley Street. The presence of overhead wires means that any design options we consider must ensure that the fire department's access to buildings is maintained. In order to allow for construction activity for Huron Avenue and Belmont Street in Cambridge and Mount Auburn Street in Watertown, The MBTA will be turning off the power to the overhead wires along Mass Ave and other streets for 5 years. The MBTA is proposing to ultimately remove the wires and replace the trolley buses with battery electric buses, or BEBs, which would provide additional design flexibility for these constrained segments of Mass Ave. However, the MBTA hasn't yet finalized the timeline for the removal of the wires, and while they are still in place along the street, they will continue to present challenges that will need to be considered in the design process. As covered during the November 2021 presentation and engagement events for this project, there are 3 levels of construction that are being considered for these segments of Mass Ave. Quick-build bike lanes involve maintaining all existing sidewalks and median and refiguring the street to include separated bike lanes with paint and flex post barriers. Partial construction would involve removing the center median except at key pedestrian crossing locations. The sidewalks would remain as they are today, and any utilities affected by the work would be upgraded. In a full construction scenario, all the street infrastructure would be reconstructed, including sidewalks and underground utilities. Let's review some of the feedback we received from the community in November of 2021, which is helping to inform the next steps for the MassAve4 project. In November, we posted a video presentation about the project that has been viewed more than 350 times. We also hosted 4 pop-up engagement events to gather feedback on these portions of Mass Ave at 2 locations of different ends of the project limits. We captured valuable input during the events on maps and boards with potential design features. There was also a survey available both at the event and online. We heard from a wide variety of community members, including those who live near, work along, and visit Mass Ave regularly using cars, bikes, buses, and on foot. Common themes identified through the online survey included safety concerns for people walking and biking, as well as a desire to provide parking to support local businesses. During the in-person events, we asked the community to show their interest for possible design features under the different construction scenarios. The design features that garnered the most interest from this process included expanding separated bike lanes, removing the center median along Mass Ave to provide additional design flexibility, providing short-term parking for customers accessing businesses, and including features to improve the experience for people walking and taking the bus along the street. Let's take a closer look at some potential configurations for the street, as well as some considerations regarding their feasibility. Within the available space, there are many different ways that Mass Ave could be reconfigured to better meet the needs of all users. For these segments of Mass Ave, we need to ensure that all our potential design solutions do not make it more difficult for emergency services to do their vital work, as the presence of overhead wires and the center median present challenges in some scenarios. Of greatest importance is the safety of all users, as well as balancing the potential for impacts to small businesses, customer parking, and utilities. During the initial process of generating possible solutions for Mass Ave in these segments, several ideas were considered, but not advanced because they did not meet the core objectives of the project. Ideas to provide parking, bus lanes, or bike lanes along the existing median in a quick build scenario would cause accessibility and safety challenges when trying to connect users to their destinations along Mass Ave. A two-way bike facility on one side of the street could free up more space, but would not provide continuity with other existing and planned facilities on Mass Ave, and would cause safety challenges when trying to connect users to their destinations along Mass Ave. Maintaining or upgrading the median and removing a travel lane to provide parking on both sides would not provide enough space for drivers to move over for emergency vehicles traveling down the corridor. Removing the median will provide space to maintain parking on one side of the street, however, but there is not enough space to maintain two travel lanes and a parking lot on both sides of the street, while also providing the separated bicycle lanes required to provide a safe and comfortable facility for people biking of all ages and abilities. We will now review the feasible options for each construction scenario: quick build, partial construction, and full construction. In a quick build scenario, the existing median would remain in place. As identified through the 2021 MassAve4 Impact Analysis Report, two lanes of travel would need to be maintained in each direction to allow for emergency access, and therefore parking would need to be removed, except for accessible spaces. In a partial build scenario, the existing median would be removed to provide additional design flexibility, but would be maintained or enhanced at pedestrian crossing locations. This would allow for two lanes of travel to be maintained with parking provided on one side of the corridor at a time. This parking lane could shift sides along the corridor. For small segments, a painted median and one travel lane in each direction could allow for areas with additional parking. However, this configuration is not compatible with bus lanes. Decisions regarding where a bus lane may be required or which side parking may be provided will be made at later detailed stages of design. Providing parking in this scenario could be limited by the timing of the overhead wire removal. In a full construction scenario, the median would be removed and the street and sidewalks would be fully reconstructed, including underground utilities. Similar to the partial build scenario, two lanes with parking on one side of the street could be possible, but parking in this scenario could also be limited by the timing of the overhead wire removal. Other possibilities, such as center-running bus lanes with enhanced bus stop platforms, could also be considered, but continuity with other segments of Mass Ave would require a longer-term investment. Partial and full reconstruction options provide the opportunity to provide some parking along the corridor, which is not feasible under a quick build scenario. Additional parking opportunities and design flexibility for the partial and full construction scenarios would be available if the overhead wires were to be removed completely. Detailed design decisions, including whether to include bus lanes, will be made in future project stages. Now that we've had a chance to see what is possible for the configuration of the street, let's explore possible design features under each scenario. In a quick build scenario, bike lane separation would include paint and flex posts to provide a barrier between cyclists and vehicles. Similar treatments would be applied in a partial construction scenario, with additional opportunities for alternative treatments such as concrete curb barriers. In a full construction scenario, the sidewalks could be expanded to include raised bike lanes, similar to Western Avenue or Binney Street. Quick build projects do not include curb or sidewalk construction. However, existing crosswalks and signals would be enhanced to improve crossing comfort. In a partial construction scenario, the median would be reconstructed to improve waiting areas for people crossing Mass Ave. Additional crosswalks could be added, and curb ramps would be reconstructed to enhance accessibility. In a full construction scenario, the sidewalks would be fully reconstructed and additional landscaping and treatments, such as raised side street crossings, would be implemented. In both quick build and partial construction scenarios, treatments such as bus lanes and transit signal priority measures could be implemented to improve bus operations. In a full construction scenario, floating bus stops and center-running bus lanes could be explored. In a quick build scenario, curbside use would be limited in these segments to potential off-peak loading or accessible parking stalls next to the curb. Under a partial or full construction scenario, a parking lane could be provided on one side of the street, which may be used for loading or outdoor dining activities in addition to short-term parking. The amount of parking that can be provided along the street is subject to the removal of the overhead wires and additional analysis at the detailed design stage of the project. Minor upgrades to signals may be required in a quick build scenario, as well as spot repaving to ensure the riding surface adjacent to the curb is adequate. Median removal in the partial or full build scenarios will necessitate signal pole relocation or complete signal reconstruction in some cases. This work will affect existing utilities and necessitate some utility construction, including sections of gas main, water main, and spot repairs to the sewer main. The impact of the partial construction scenario on existing utilities is under review and will inform the timeline for implementation. Full reconstruction would provide the opportunity to more comprehensively upgrade existing utilities, but would impact the implementation timeline significantly. Now that we have a better understanding of what each construction scenario may look and feel like, let's explore how each scenario helps us achieve the goals of the project and meet the needs of the community. The quick build scenario offers the fastest timeline for separated bike lane implementation, but does not address the desire from the community to remove the median in order to provide short-term and customer parking along Mass Ave. Partial construction allows for some parking to be maintained with additional flexibility if the overhead wires are removed, while also providing additional improvements for people walking and taking the bus. The partial build scenario also allows for a faster implementation timeline than fully reconstructing the street. This timeline is currently under review and will depend on the scope of construction and utility upgrades. While the full construction scenario meets the needs of the community for improvements for people walking, biking, and taking the bus, the overall implementation timeline would not meet the intent of the Cycling Safety Ordinance's goal of accelerated separated bike lane implementation along Mass Ave. Based on the community feedback received, as well as the technical analysis underway by the project team, the partial construction option to remove the median but maintain the existing sidewalks is recommended. This option balances the need to implement separated bike lanes along Mass Ave quickly while addressing the desire to maintain parking. We want to hear from you about the draft recommendation for partial construction to make sure we are on the right path. This recommendation will need to be presented to City Council for approval before detailed design can move forward. If approved, there will be additional public engagement during these future project stages to ensure the design meets the needs of the community. If the partial construction recommendation and associated timeline is not approved, the corridor must be implemented as a quick build by April 2024 per the Cycling Safety Ordinance. Now that we've reviewed the draft recommendation for these segments of MassAv, we want to hear from you. Please complete the survey on the project webpage at cambridgema.gov/MassAv4A and attend the Zoom community meeting on March 3rd, 2022. If you have additional questions or would like to share your feedback in person, join City staff outside the Lunder Arts Center on Saturday, March 19th between 10 a.m. and 2 p.m. Or feel free to email your thoughts to the project team at kriley@cambridgema.gov. Thank you.